Celtic Myths and Legends by T.W. Rolleston. Chapter 6. Tales of the Oisianic Cycle. The Birth of Oisin. One day, as Finn and his companions and dogs were returning from the chase to their dune on the hill of Allen, a beautiful fawn started up on their path, and the chase swept after her. She was taking the way which led to their home. Soon all the pursuers were left far behind, save only Finn himself and his two hounds, Bron and Skalaun. Now these hounds were of strange breed, for Tyrin, sister to Myrna, the mother of Finn, had been changed into a hound by the enchantment of a woman of the fairy folk who loved Tyrin's husband, Alan, and the two hounds of Finn were the children of Tyrin, born to her in that shape. Of all hounds in Ireland, they were the best, and Finn loved them much, so that it was said that he wept but twice in his life, and once was for the death of Bron. And so the loving her husband. I think this probably comes from the fact that these stories were passed through Christians who didn't, they didn't want to say the word sex, so they said love all over the place. And at last, as the chase went on down a valley side, Finn saw the fawn stop and lie down, while the two hounds began to play round her, and to lick her face and limbs. So he gave commandment that none should hurt her, and she followed them to the dune of Allen, playing with the hounds as she went. Well, I have the opposite feeling when a dog goes up to lick me, but I'm not going to hurt the dog. The dog's innocent. The same night, Finn awoke and saw standing by his bed the fairest woman his eyes had ever beheld. "I'm Saba, O Finn," she said, "and I was the fawn ye chased today, because I would not give my love to the druid of the fairy folk, who is named the Dark, because he put that shape upon me by his sorceries. And I have borne it these 3 years, but a slave of his, pitying me, once revealed to me that if I could win to thy great dune of Allen, O Finn, I should be safe from all enchantments, and my natural shape would come to me again. But I feared to be torn in pieces by the dogs, or wounded by thy hunters, till at last I let myself be overtaken by thee alone, and by Bron and Skalaun, who have the nature of man, and would do me no hurt. Have no fear, maiden, said Finn. We, the Fianna, are free, and our guest friends are free. There is none who shall put compulsion on you here. So Saba dwelt with Finn, and he made her his wife, and so deep was his love for her that neither the battle nor the chase had any delight for him, and for months he never left her side. She also loved him as deeply, and their joy in each other was like that of the immortals in the land of youth. But at last word came to Finn that the warships of the Northmen were in the bay of Dublin, and he summoned his heroes to the fight. For, said he to Saba, the men of Erin give us tribute and hospitality to defend them from the foreigner, and it were shame to take it from them, and not give it, and to not give that which we on our side are pledged. A lot of that in the media. People say, well, I signed a contract, but I want out of it. Okay, well, you still promised your end of the bargain, or you don't take away their terms. And he called to mind that great saying of Gall MacMorna, when they were once sore bested by a mighty host. A man said, Goll lives after his life, but not after his honor. 7 days was Finn absent, and he drove the north men from the shores of Erin. But on the 8th day he returned, and when he entered his dune he saw trouble in the eyes of his men, and of their fair women folk. And Saba was not on the rampart, exceeding his return. So he bade them tell him what had chanced, and they said, Whilst thou, our father and lord, went afar off, admitting the foreigner, and Saba, looking ever down the pass for thy return, we saw one day, as it were, the likeness of thee approaching, and Bron and Skalaun at thy heels, and we seemed also to hear the notes of the Fionn hunting call, blown on the wind. Then Saba hastened to the great gate, and we could not stay her, so eager was she to rush to the phantom. But when she came near, she halted and gave a loud and bitter cry, and the shape of thee smote her with a hazel wand, and lo, there was no woman there any more, but a deer, and those hounds chased it, and ever as it strove to reach again the gate of the dune, they turned back. We all now seized what arms we could, and ran to drive away the enchanter. But when we reached that place, there was nothing to be seen, only we heard the rushing of flying feet, and the baying of dogs, and one thought it came from here, and another from there, till at last the uproar died away, and all was still. What could we do, O Finn? We did. Saba is gone. Finn then struck his hand on his breast, but spoke no word, and he went to his own chamber. No man saw him for the rest of that day, nor for the day after. When he came forth, he ordered the matters of the Fianna, as of old, but for 7 years thereafter he went searching for Saba, through every remote glen and dark forest and cavern of Ireland, and he would take no hounds with him, save Bron and Skalaun. But at last he renounced all hope of finding her again, and went hunting as of old. One day, as he was following the chase on Ben Bulben in Sligo, he heard the musical bay of the dogs change of a sudden to a fierce growling and yelping, as though they were in combat with some beast, and running hastily up, he and his men beheld, under a great tree, a naked boy with long hair, and around him the hounds, struggling to seize him, but Bron and Skalaun fighting with them and keeping them off. And the lad was tall and shapely, and as the heroes gathered round, he gazed undauntedly on them, never heeding the rout of the dogs at his feet. The Fions beat off the dogs and brought the lad home with them, and Finn was very silent and continually searched the lad's countenance with his eyes. In time, the use of speech came to him, and the story that he told was this. And if you've seen the Golden Dawn magical tarot, or is it called magical tarot? Well, I've shown this deck on my channel. This is the full card. Well, I mean, what we just said, the boy and the dogs and the two dogs. Anyways, he had known no father and no mother, save a gentle hind, with whom he lived in most green and pleasant valleys, shut in on every side by towering cliffs that could not be scaled, or by deep chasms in the earth. In the summer he lived on fruits and such like, and in the winter store of provisions was laid for him in a cave, and there came to them sometimes a tall visaged man, who spoke to his mother, now tenderly, and now in loud menace, but she always shrank away in fear, and the man departed in anger. At last there came a day when the dark man spoke very long with his mother, in all tones of entreaty and of tenderness and of rage, but she would still keep aloof and give no sign save of fear and abhorrence. Then at length the dark man drew near and smote her with a hazel wand, and for that he turned and went his way. But she this time followed him, still looking back, at her son, and piteously complaining. And he, when he strove to follow, found himself unable to move a limb. And crying out with rage and desolation, he fell into the earth, and his senses left him. When he came to himself, he was on the mountainside, on Ben Bulben, where he remained some days, searching for that green and hidden valley, which he never found again. And after a while the dogs found him. But of the hind his mother, and of the dark druid, there is no man knows the end. Finn called his name Oisin, Little Fawn, and he became a warrior of fame, but far more famous for the songs and tales that he made, and so that all things to this day that are told of the Fianna of Erin men are wont to say, thus sang the bard Oisin, son of Finn. So, how will you convey stories? Certainly, it's important to be honest and to be principled in what you convey.